Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning.
Now back to Harry Hurley on WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Hey, thank you very much. I mention always at least once per program that I love my job. I mean, just this hour, for example, from Governor Chris Christie in that definitive interview that we just did, that so many of you have been very kind in the comments that you sent that I was reading during the break. And now I've met somebody for the first time, Bob Kosch, who we're going to spend the rest of the program with. And I want to welcome him. He is from Greater Good Media. That's his company, Greater Good Media, LLC. And we have a lot that we're going to unpack in the remaining time that we have. Bob, welcome to Hurley in the Morning. How are you?
Good morning, Harry, and thanks for having me on.
It is my pleasure. This I just want to get out of the way. And you don't hide it, but
no.
You're a former mortgage banker, former broker right here in our great state of New Jersey, and in your past, you did have a stint at Club Fed.
Yes, I did.
And I just want to go ahead.
I want your listeners to know I'm going out to buy lottery tickets tonight because what are the chances of the guy who prosecuted you being on as the guest prior to your interview? Yeah, Chris Christie.
Do you see what I'm saying? Now, I will be honest, you were scheduled. I don't believe in coincidences. I tell my audience that every single day. You were scheduled before Governor Christie, but that's why I opened with this, not to just bring it up out of nowhere for no good reason, but because I knew that. So that's ironic, but probably not coincidental because they say that things are happening the way they're supposed to when they happen. And Governor Christie and I, we talked briefly yesterday. We didn't set up this morning until, and it was only tentative, until about the 7 o'clock hour. And so you were scheduled, he wasn't, but it both happened. So what are the chances of that, Bob?
Yeah.
You will, in all the interviews you're doing, and I know you've done some great ones. I've actually watched a few of them. This is the only interview that you will follow the man who prosecuted you.
Well, and he had some great comments. And by the way, the United States Assistant Attorney Paula Dow was the one who actually handled the case, and I have really gotten a great amount of respect for Chris and for Paula Dow. You know, it's funny because you can look back in your life and say, I'll blame it on something else. But I was a little bit of a cowboy back in the day, and this actually happened, and it's something that, especially with the program I'm bringing out right now called Reset with respect to getting the economy up and running and avoiding a huge global recession, it's a shot at redemption.
I want to talk about that because I know you have Reset coming opportunities in the commercial real estate, and you also have a common sense approach to cure the deficit. I've been speaking about the deficit for 29 years on this program, the debt that this nation is accumulating, that we're getting to the point with as many trillions, multiple tens of trillions of dollars in debt that we have, that it's hard to believe we could ever repay it, let alone get it going and straightening it out in a relatively short period of time. But you believe we can do that, right, Bob?
Absolutely. If you look back in 1893, Grover Cleveland had to go to J.P. Morgan to borrow $6.5 million worth of gold because our economy was in shambles and there was a real chance that the dollar would be worth nothing. Here, we had to pay J.P. Morgan back. Here, there's a very common sense approach. There is approximately $92 trillion in shell companies, and that doesn't even cover, what cash is around from, people just hiding it under the mattress or not wanting to pay Uncle Sam. But here's the real chance to reset, meaning if we were to be able to approach anyone who has cash, a perfect example, you've got a young guy, he may be doing the wrong thing, he gets up every morning, he gets his drugs to the corner of 5th and Main in some city, and he gets his guys all to work. That kid has a work ethic. There's a problem with what he's doing, but at the same time, if he was offered to say, hey, look, you You've got money, you've got cash, you pay us a flat tax one time, get an immunity from prosecution, and that person could become a better person, be a better community. And there's plenty of money to pay off our national deficit by soliciting these other funds.
You are listening to Bob Kosch, Greater Good Media. He's talking about his common sense approach to cure the deficit in a short period of time. We're going to take our final break. Then we're going to be good until about 5 minutes past the top of the hour, Bob. So we're going to have a nice, uninterrupted two-way talk chunk together of time. When we come back, I also want to talk about, I know that you have ideas relative to providing business loans and other monies for useful purposes at the domestic level, because I'm a huge fan of helping Americans. We have been in the business. I think you're going to agree with this, and if you disagree, we can have a split decision when we come back, Bob. But I think you're not just getting to know and reading about you and watching a few of your interviews. I think you're going to agree with this, but don't be bound by that. If you disagree, I'm fine with that. But we've been sending so much money to countries that hate our guts. And what are we doing that for? There's no return on investment. And we have people that actually have food instability in our own country. They're hungry. So I am all for the business loans that you're talking about, money for other domestic programs and people and purchases and things like that here at the, we'll call it the pro-American level. And I want to get your philosophy on that when we come back. With Bob Kosch, I am respectfully yours.
95.5 FM and 1450 AM WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ 97.3 HD3 Millville.
We are very happy to welcome Bob Kosch to our program this morning for the remainder of today's program. His company, Greater Good Media, LLC. Bob has a substantial background in distressed finance, obviously timely skill set in the current second wave of COVID-19. Bob, before we go to the question I teased before the break, but I promise we're going to have time to do justice to that because I think it's a really important part of your plan, and that is the providing the business loans and the other domestic spending that is really required, especially in light of COVID-19. But here's something I know that you know because you did mortgages, you were in the business. We have and I mentioned it with Governor Christie, I mentioned it a lot on this program, Bob. We have a day of reckoning that a lot of people are not thinking about. And it's not going to go away. We've just been kicking the can. We have so many people that are 30, 60, 90, 120, even beyond, behind on their mortgage. So right now, nobody can be evicted. Right now, foreclosures aren't happening. But we know that's not forever. This pandemic will become endemic. It will be gone, and we'll go back to living again. At the end of this, though, there will be people, they're not going to have 6 mortgage payments that they can make at one time, 3, 4, 5, 8 mortgage payments that they can make at one time. I guess what I'm saying, Bob, I foresee a rash of foreclosures, evictions, because people that have tenants that can't pay right now, that they can't evict, they have the paperwork done. They're going to file it as soon as they're allowed to. This is a big day of reckoning that I think is unavoidable, Bob.
Well, Harry, you're hitting the nail dead on. That's why I have up on the website the phrase, for those who fail to learn business history, you are doomed to repeat it. Now, that is so important. And what you're saying, the stats are right now that by the end of the month, there are over 283,000 people who will suffer from ejectment. Oh. Now, ejectment is a little different than eviction because you're ejected from your home that you own. Now, you have to go back, once again, business history. In 2007, what did we have? We had people buying houses for over market value. There was bidding wars. The economy was great.
Yeah. And we had ninja loans, no income, no job. They were just writing loans to people who 30 days later couldn't even make the first mortgage payment.
Well, we called them, number one, you're bringing up another excellent point, because what they did back then is they allowed what's called desktop underwriting. So you had someone sitting at a desk who may have gotten a course from Washington Mutual, who's now out of business, looking at a loan profile and just fudging the numbers. Boom, banks are cutting $300,000 first mortgages on a house that's worth $180,000, and now 2008 comes along, and we called those loan products neutron mortgages because the neutron bomb kills people and leaves the property intact. So this was the perfect name for that picket plan payment that they went with. But here, if you look at, once again, business history, and you look at the Johnstown flood, that's when they first defined cognitive dissonance. The people in Johnstown who lived below the dam knew someday that it was going to break. They just went upon their daily lives, and all of a sudden, they got a big rainstorm, the dam breaks, and 2,800 people were killed. This is what we're facing right now. You've got the commercial market imploding, and the loan products that were available years ago that need to be brought back are the seller carryback type of loans where private investors can make 4 mortgage loans under the Banking Act in New Jersey without having a license. Get some money out there. Who do you know during the last recession who entered into a forbearance agreement that saved their home? Nobody.
Right.
This has to change. The governor brought up a big point. There's no new normal. Normal would be going back to what we had, and that's not going to happen. Can you picture the Egyptians when they started? They found papyrus. You think any of them said, "Hey, you know what?
Yeah, let's keep writing on the caves, on the walls. Now that we have paper, yeah, I get it. I get it.
Hieroglyphics are the way to go.
Yeah. Hey, right. And when we move, we leave the stuff behind. Hey, Bob, let's leave some quality time to talk about this next step of your program because I think it's so important. We have about 3 minutes left in the program. We're visiting with Bob Kosch from Greater Good Media. Bob, your plan to provide business loans and money for other useful purposes at the domestic level, I think, especially in the pandemic that we're in now, this is so important.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. There needs to be brought back to the table, like I was just saying, these bridge loans, things where people can actually recover, because the whole purpose of bringing this money into the country, and if we take that number, cut it in half, and let's say 92 trillion, take 42 trillion and get a flat tax of 20% on that, with the provision that whoever's bringing money into the country, that there will be available to local businesses, homeowners, short-term, interest-only, one-year balloons, just to get, because once we have either a vaccine or things do start to calm down, if what you just said, Harry, how is somebody who hasn't paid their mortgage in a year and a half now going to write a check for whatever dollar amount that is? They can't do it. So these funds have to be available, and we can make that happen.
And we make that happen. Do we make that happen by not sending some of the money we waste to all these countries that hate our guts? I'm concerned the incoming administration likes that kind of norm from the past where you just pretend like the people who hate you are your friends when we know they're not. Where does the money come from?
Exactly. No, I think what has to happen, the new administration has got to come in and revamp, just like you said, where are we sending our taxpayer dollars? How is is wealth in the world shifting? Where is it going? And if we're the only ones who are going to participate in putting this money out and getting nothing back for it, well, we've really got to reassess what we're doing.
Without a doubt. Final minute, closing comment.
I'm just very excited to do this. I have a passion for it because I really know it can work. I come from a place that's a little different, where people learned about the economy or economics in books. Just briefly, a perfect example, because we're from New Jersey. I love this state. New Jersey, what they did in the first industrial revolution, they actually suspended zoning in Patterson so they could have workers walk to the factory. They went to these commercial building owners, shopkeepers, hey, we'll let you put 2 apartments up top. That's what has to happen here. We have to have a revamping or a reset of what has gone on, and this is the perfect opportunity to do it.
Bob, I so agree with that. To our listeners, go to talkersmagazine.com and check out Bob's recent guest column. It is outstanding, and you'll learn even more about Bob Kosch. Bob, an honor to present you, sir.
Absolute pleasure being on, Harry. You have a great day.
Be well. Take care. Thanks so much.